One morning, Edwin C. Barnes stood still with a newspaper in his hands, not because the news was dramatic, but because one name refused to let go of his attention: Thomas Edison, an inventor, a man building things most people didn't yet understand, and many quietly doubted. Barnes read the article once, then again, and somewhere between the words, a thought formed. Not a wish, not a fantasy, a decision. I will work with this man. Pause for a moment. At that point, Barnes had no money to spare, no introduction, no invitation. Nothing in his life supported that decision. If that thought had crossed your mind, honestly, would you have trusted it or talked yourself out of it? Barnes trusted it. Once that decision settled, staying where he was became uncomfortable. The days that followed were heavy, not chaotic, just heavy. Because once you decide something real, life doesn't reward you immediately, it resists. People around Barnes questioned him. Some laughed, others warned him. They weren't cruel, they were practical. And that made it harder, because practicality sounds like wisdom when fear is involved. Barnes listened, but he didn't obey. Instead, he did the only thing that felt honest. He moved. Not with confidence, not without fear, but with resolve. He boarded a train knowing only this: I would rather face uncertainty than live with quiet regret. When Barnes arrived where Edison worked, imagination collapsed into reality. There was no welcome, no recognition. He was just another man standing in the wrong place with a decision no one else could see. Sit with this moment. You've spent your limited resources. You've risked embarrassment. You've told yourself this matters. And nothing happens. No opportunity. No signal. This is where most people reinterpret their decision. They say, I misread the moment. The timing is wrong. I should leave before this becomes humiliating. Barnes didn't. He stayed. Eventually, Edison noticed him. Not as a partner, not as an equal, as help. The work was small. The pay was low. The future undefined. This was not what Barnes imagined when he first read that newspaper. It was slower, quieter, and far more humbling. Here's the question most people avoid asking themselves. If the world answers your bold decision with something unimpressive, do you accept it? Or does your pride walk away? Barnes accepted it, because he understood something most people learn too late. Position comes before recognition. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Nothing remarkable happened. No breakthrough, no moment of validation. Just work, routine, silence. Barnes watched others lose patience, watched ideas fail, watched time stretch, and at night the questions came. How long do I stay? What if this never changes? When does persistence become foolish? Those questions never fully leave. The difference is whether you let them decide for you. Barnes didn't, because the decision had already been made, and he refused to renegotiate it with doubt. Then one day, the atmosphere shifted. Edison introduced a new invention, unfamiliar, untested, risky. The room filled with hesitation. Not because people lacked intelligence, but because uncertainty is expensive. If this failed, it would fail publicly. Edison needed someone willing to carry that weight. Barnes stepped forward. No speech, no bravado, just calm alignment. He said he could do it. That moment wasn't luck. It was preparation finally meeting a door. What followed wasn't instant success. It was effort, consistency, time, and eventually, Barnes became what he had decided to be long before evidence appeared. Not because he was special, but because he stayed consistent when most people quietly retreat. Now pause here. Barnes didn't wait for certainty before committing. He committed, and endured silence long enough for certainty to grow. Most people want reassurance before sacrifice. He sacrificed first. So ask yourself, not dramatically, just honestly, what decision are you delaying because you want proof before courage? And what might change if you chose who you are becoming, even while uncertainty remains? Take a moment before you move on. If this episode gave you something to think about, give it a like, subscribe, give us a comment down below. Until next time, stay focused.